Paranormal Evidence.
Tonight, see what truly exists inside the world of the paranormal. Join the discussion and review some of the best paranormal evidence captures from a wide variety of experienced and up-and-coming investigators. See and hear what they capture, where they captured it, and how they captured it. Right now on Entity Voices
Paranormal Evidence.
Live.
Good evening and welcome to Entity Voices Paranormal. Nice hat, Chris.
That's a Chris.
Tony Rathman.
I'm Santa Chris.
I'm Audra. I'm not even going down that road.
I'm Ron Yacovetti, and I think I know what I want for Christmas now. A photo of that. I don't want the hat. I want a photo of that.
That's awesome. We'll have to see if we can do an after Christmas some sort of celebration like we did last year, because that was fun. Yeah, that was fun. It was only like 15 minutes, I think, but it was a good time.
Yeah.
Well, tonight we have a very special show. We have Vinny Carbone with us tonight, and very excited about it. He's given us some evidence clips to review, and with that said, let me bring him in and let him tell our audience about his background. So here comes Vinny. Hey, Vinny, how you doing?
There he is.
Great. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Going well. Well, to start off, and I ask this question of all of our guests, can you give a background of how you got involved in the paranormal, how it started for you, and how it led you up to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was a baby in the 80s, so I grew up, with Ghostbusters and all that, and Harry and the Hendersons and all that, supernatural stuff, they were making movies about in the 80s. And so I was kind of fascinated with that as a child. And then I was watching In Search Of and Unsolved Mysteries and all that show, all those shows. And I was just always kind of fascinated with the concepts of ghosts specifically. I think mostly because I was terrified of the idea of ghosts as a child. But then as I got older, I went to college. I studied theater at college. And so I just got really into like the art of storytelling and story creating and performance. And so I think that's where my fascination with just a good old fashioned ghost story came from. But then when I was in college, I actually had a really bizarre experience while working in my dorm room one night. And that's kind of what took it from a passing interest to something that I wanted to find resolution on. And I just started investigating in 2011. And when I started working at a museum in Manhattan, it was a paranormal hotspot. So by working there, I was able to meet people in the industry, such as Ron, and got to start leading public investigations and lectures. And then I was invited to go give lectures elsewhere and really be welcomed into the paranormal community. And here it is, several years later, and it's just something that I really didn't expect, but I'm absolutely honored to be a part of.
That's awesome.
That's very awesome.
And he does a fine job too. I've been a party to a few investigations with him. One or two were public events also, and that's a certain skill in and of itself. It's one thing to be a good investigator, but if you don't have people skills and you don't know how to present this to the public the right way with managing expectations and what's realistic and how to do things, that's a whole other skill. And Vinny's got all of that stuff down really, really well. So that's worth pointing out.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that.
Cool.
Fantastic. So you said you started in 2011. So 11 years, roughly.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's
Yeah.
impressive. So before I get into clips, what's your favorite paranormal location?
Well, as I said, I've been really fortunate. I've gotten to investigate some really cool places. Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, got to investigate there twice. That was phenomenal. It's like a once in a lifetime thing, and I got to do it twice. That was really cool just because of the history of it alone. I really love investigating. There was Iron Island Museum in Buffalo. That was just a really cool place. Just again, it's now like a historical museum for Buffalo, but it has such a crazy history in itself. It was a funeral parlor, a bunch of other things. Let's see, historic Richmond town, Staten Island is really cool. Just because it's so many different historical structures that are put together on one campus to make up the museum. And so, you get a little bit of everything in different buildings that you go into. I've had some of the most incredible experiences investigating over there. So historical structures mostly,
That's always interesting, right, Vin? When you have people who do, we were saying about historic Richmond town, when they take a collection of historic places and then they kind of congregate them somewhere on a piece of land where they can preserve them and maintain it, but that's not where they originally were. There's an area in Southern California, I think it was one of the last, if not the last place I investigated before I moved back to the East Coast, called Heritage Junction. Same thing. There's a lot of structures on that property that were not indigenous to that specific area when they were built, but then they were brought there. And that place is also, and I'm wondering how much that could even factor into it. They say when you do renovations, you could stir up activity.
Yeah,
you move the whole building. That's
right.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. That's a real good point, because everybody knows that remodel, or I can't imagine moving the entire building wouldn't stir up some activity. But
spirit go out the front door. They go, my body's buried right over. Hey, where did it go?
Wait, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's Pioneer Town not too far from you, Tony, just north there on I-17 by Carefree Highway that Ghost Adventures actually did an investigation at.
Cherie and I tried multiple times to investigate it at night. They wouldn't allow us because they have a group. So we went middle of the afternoon, and we have EVP after EVP after EVP. It was incredible. All right, so Vinny, I got one more question. Have you ever been to Kingsland Manor, Kreischer Mansion, Selma Mansion, or White Hill Mansion?
I have not, no.
Just had to ask, because Ron took us on an amazing 4-mansion tour in 4 days, and those are the locations that we did. I was just curious if you've been to any of them.
No, unfortunately, I have not, no.
I don't know if the museum in New York, you haven't named it, if you want to keep it that way. But that was one of the places I was considering, as well as the Shanley Hotel when they came out from Arizona. But part of what we were trying to do was 4 nights in a row. And so scheduling, availability, and to a certain extent cost factored into what we were trying to do. So,
yeah. No, I mean, I have no issue. So the name of the museum that I worked at that Ron, I think, was referencing was the Morris-Jumel Mansion in uptown Manhattan. So it's Washington Heights. And they have a long standing, not only political and military history, but paranormal history as well. I mean, the ghost stories actually go back to shortly after 1865 when Eliza Jamel, who was the longest resident of the house, passed away. Her family takes over the house, and they start, reporting all these claims of Eliza coming to them at night and all that. So it's not something that we as a staff in the last 10 years or so just came up with. But that's a great location as well. That's one that I, that's kind of like my paranormal homecoming whenever I get to go back to New York and get a few investigations in. I was, leading investigations there for a while too. Yeah.
Yeah, that place is great for TV media and historic purposes, kind of getting tied together. If I'm not mistaken, that's where Ghost Adventures had debuted the SLS camera for the first time.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. We have the it's in the beginning of every episode. Mm-hmm. Bill Chappell in the hallway saying, "I can't explain that."
Yes,
that's in the hallway of the mansion. On the second floor.
Yeah, that's a fantastic place. It really is.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Actually,
it's right over there. It's right over there.
Just a little quick plug. For my YouTube channel, we have an episode coming out that we shot at the mansion last year. But it's taken so long to edit and just take 2 seconds to sit down and get that done. But it's going to be coming out New Year's Day. But we could talk more about that later.
Allow me to endorse it now. Then people should watch it.
Thank you.
So Aaron Bush was asking, what's your least favorite location, as in the scariest for activity?
Least favorite, as in so what is your least favorite location as in scariest activity? Well, see, for an investigator, it's the opposite.
I was just going to say that. That would have been my favorite.
I mean, least favorite location, I'd say I did investigate a historical museum in Kentucky that was kind of a dud, just paranormal wise. It was a beautiful museum. It was kind of like a spur of the moment. Hey, can we pop in and do a quick investigation? And it was called the Portland Museum, actually, in Kentucky, which was kind of confusing. But I mean, like I said, that was probably my least favorite just because of lack of activity. But I think if you mean scariest, what the question was worded, probably Waverly Hills, just because it's like a horror movie come to life, just looking at it. But it was one of my favorites. So
no, I love that answer because if it's pushing the limits of actually causing fear or scariness in an investigator, then that is a prime location.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me.
Have you guys ever been like, when was the last time you guys have actually been scared on an investigation?
Well, my husband decided to scare me this past weekend.
Okay.
He was a brat, but
she was coming down the stairs. We were at the Montgomery house, and I smacked the bottom of the stairs as she came around landing and scared. First time I've ever got her to scream. Well, in an investigation.
And now that's on the internet.
I guess my answer would be an overnight, the last full overnight my wife and I did at Phelps Dodge. And I wasn't scared when I was there. It was actually when I was reviewing the DVR video that what we caught, I went, oh, crap. But I think that was the last time that I got a little shook up by what was captured.
Excellent.
I'd say either the Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula, California, when I was starting out, or and it's not a negative demonic place like TV likes to present it, but David Omen's house, purely because where the Manson Tate murders happened, purely because it's so consistently active. And every time I've been there, it's not just like subtle things happen or you get a few EVPs, like noteworthy things, like an entire picture, movie poster with a glass front and a frame. It has some heft to it, coming off the wall by itself in slow motion, and 7 of us have watched it. Seen a wood plank spin off, didn't just slide off, it spun off in a closet area in his exposed dirt room under the house, or like it was trying to hit somebody who was walking by with like his little device or something. So that place really, because it's introduced me to some of the most poltergeist-esque kind of things moving and coupled with sounds, whatever that I've, vocals that I've seen collectively in one place.
Mm-hmm. I think the scaredest I've ever been on an investigation, to be perfectly frank, was the very first formal investigation I ever went on with a group of people. It was, a small group of friends. It was at a museum called Valentine in up here in Rochester, New York, in a suburb of Rochester, in Victor. And I think just because, my previous exposure to what ghost hunting was TV, and so I went in there pretty scared. And then within the first 5 minutes, I was like, what am I actually scared of? You know what I mean? I'm here actively trying to look for paranormal activity. So, that went away very quickly. And then the excitement took over and it just kind of never stops from there.
Yeah.
So mine would be, I don't get startled hardly at all, but we did Trans-Allegheny last August.
Oh,
we were doing a group setting up in Dean's room on the third floor. And long story short, I needed to step out into the hallway because we got a message saying that there was something out there. I looked down the hallway. At the end of the hallway, there was a tall shadow figure. And these hallways are a football field. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, there's a shadow figure. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see a mist form and a shadow figure forms on the wall and moves down the hallway. And then I get a weird, creepy feeling behind me, and I turn around, and in the room across the hall, there's a third shadow figure. In the 20 some odd years that I've been doing this, as the first time I've seen that many shadow figures in one location, it actually caught me off guard.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, mine was probably when we went to the, like, my for real one, not when you scared me, but when we went to the Birdcage Theater one time, I think with the kids maybe.
Yeah.
And, you know, they, after doing the little tour, then they have you kind of sit in the dark room for about 20 minutes or so. And I think there's only, maybe 6 or 8 people in this group. So it was a nice smaller group. And we were all sitting around, and it just, and anybody that investigates knows it's dark. And then when something's there, it gets really dark. And Chris was to my right, and I'm kind of like, well, so I'm just like going like this. I'm like, oh gosh. There's something was just kept pressing. And then we caught actually on recorder. What did it say? I don't like her.
I don't like her.
I don't like her. They whispered in my ear, I don't like her. And they were talking about the speaker, but it's like somebody's just going, I don't like her. But it's like,
and I caught the EVP of it.
Yeah, it was just too much into my face. I didn't like that at all.
Shout out, by the way, real fast to Steve and Katie Holte watching. Vin, if you're looking for ghost boxes ever, there's someone to talk to. I can introduce you. Steve Holte, Katie Holte. Awesome ghost box builders. I love to Vinny referenced the TV shows, and we all kind of started around the same era, give or take. And there was so little of it back then. But I used to love, there was a comedian I was friends with named Phil Tagg who did a joke about how Robert Stack could make anything sound interesting, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, he would be like, a man walked into a Denny's. Everything seemed normal at the time, but when breakfast came, the sausage was missing. If you have any information, call Unsolved Mysteries and help us find the missing link. And he could pull it off, man. He could just pull it off.
Yeah, he was a perfect man for the job, him and his trench coat.
Yeah.
He had that on a lot. That was like his signature for Unsolved Mysteries.
Maybe he was a streaker one in between takes. Who knows?
Could have been. He just went from one job to the other.
There you go.
All right. So I'm going to play an EVP you submitted, and this one's called Woman's Voice. Do you want to give a little background where you were at, where this was captured?
Absolutely. So this one was captured in the administration building at historic Richmond town, and it's where the staff works during the day. And at that time, this was going back about 2 to 3 years. This is about 2 years ago, actually. And the staff had been reporting, they kept catching glimpses of what looked like a woman in a white dress walking past like the doorways of their offices. And they would get up and go look in the next room, and no one would be there. We went into my one friend, the woman who worked there, her name is Melissa, and her office had like a bathroom attached to it as well. And often she would hear like the water running in the bathroom, and she'd get up and it would stop. So this one night we did an investigation throughout the through most of the campus there. And like I said, we did the CVP session in her office. So in the room was about 3 or 4 other people and Melissa. Now, Melissa wasn't there. What we captured is what sounds like a woman's voice. Melissa did not speak while we were doing the CVP session. It's very quick. But when we played it back, you're going to hear what sounds like it is a motorcycle passing by on the outside. I note that. And then right as the motorcycle is like going into the distance, you hear the faint sound of what sounds like a woman saying, "Turn it off." So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what we captured.
Okay. Here is that clip.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry, I played the wrong one.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Let's let me do that again. Here is correct.
Yeah, I heard something. I'm like, oh, there's more.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Richmond Town, Melissa's office, October 30th. Is there someone in this office that's trying to give us a message? Is there something that you don't like about the people in here? Motorcycle outside. Is there a reason why people keep seeing you in this building?
Oh yeah, that's very clear. I can't tell. I'm going to play it again because I didn't quite catch what she said. So let me play that again real quick. Here it is.
Richmond town, Melissa's office, October 30th. Is there someone in this office that's trying to give us a message? Is there something that you don't like about the people in here? Motorcycle outside. Is there a reason why people keep seeing you in this building?
The tone is crazy.
Yeah. It almost sounds to me like she's saying, because you just said about the motorcycle, and I could be completely wrong here, but I'm hearing what sounds like her saying turning.
I was picking up 3 syllables. So I turn it off. That's where I got turn it off. But yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like, now I never, when it comes to EVPs, you know, people ask, oh, what's it say? And I don't like to lead the witness. I want people to come to their own conclusions. The biggest thing for me is just, can we agree that we hear something?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then what is something? Yeah, what is something? And like I said, everyone, there was a few people in the room. It was a very small group. There was one woman in the group, Melissa, but she was not speaking when that was captured. So we don't know.
So to me, it sounds like an elderly woman that sounds almost a little bit annoyed.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. You can get that from the tone of it for sure. That's what I was saying. Like we guess at gender, right? If even gender transcends the meat suit when we leave it behind, or whatever we are. But I mean, you could hear the tonality, and that absolutely did sound like a female tone.
Yes.
And I think what Chris said also was there too. I think there was certain attitude or sass, if you will. And I haven't used sass for about 15 years, but here it is. Boom. Sass. But you hear that. And that's interesting to me to be able to pick up stuff like that, because of the words themselves. Sometimes, you know, like Vinny said, the fact that it's anomalous is the big part of it all. But, and I've said this before, when we communicate amongst each other, there's like 55% of it is physicality, and then you're looking at like 33% of his tonality, and that was rife with tonality.
Yeah. It just, for me, it was one of the most clear-cut cases where, you know, someone came with a claim saying that they're seeing what seems to be a woman. We do an EVP session right out of the gate, and we get what sounds like a woman. So, I mean, could be another woman, but it was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Let me play it one more time as the audience is asking to hear it again. Here is that clip.
Richmond town, Melissa's office, October 30th. Is there someone in this office that's trying to give us a message? Is there something that you don't like about the people in here? Motorcycle outside. Is there a reason why people keep seeing you in this building?
Yeah, I'm hearing 3 syllables also on that.
Turning on me. Did something happen in that house? Do you know?
I mean, So that's the thing is when you go to a historic location like the Morris-Jumel Mansion. Now, the house was built in 1765, and George Washington was there for 5 weeks during the American Revolution. Now, it's still standing to this day. People come there to do ghost hunts, and what's the first thing they do? They try to talk to George Washington, right? Because that's all they know about. Meanwhile, the building's over 200 years old. God knows how many things have happened there. So,
Right.
yes, in this building, I'm sure that there's been some kind of controversy or something that happened that maybe was never in the public light. I don't know. Or maybe it was just a cranky old lady working there that died and still hanging out.
Yeah. Also fascinating that the motorcycles seem to be both catalyst and possibly an enabler for the audio.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
You can hear audibly the Doppler effect in sound where something's coming closer. And
Yes.
as the waves get smaller, it intensifies and then it kind of trails off. But that was right before the female vocal came through, and then nobody responded in the moment that they heard anything.
Right.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah.
Great point.
Said,
Great point.
Ron.
Unless
Yeah.
George had a really high voice. With that wig.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's any debate that there is a woman's vocal there. I mean, that's for
No.
sure. Exactly. I mean, some of the audience said turn it or something they were hearing as well. So it's something along that lines. But I think the biggest thing is that, like you said, there were stories of a woman. You were investigating. You got a woman's voice answering. So that's it's very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right.
Everyone's
So
trying to
the
talk to
next-
G-Dub.
The next EVP I'm going to play is called Women's Room.
Right. So this was captured at the Morris-Jumel Mansion, and it was with our good friend Mariah.
Wow. Just
Yep.
saw her.
Yeah. So Mariah was in town, and from California, a good friend of the mansion, mutual friend of Ron and I, and psychic medium. And when she was in town, she wanted to do a private investigation at the museum. We said sure, and she said, something's drawn me to this back corner of the house. And what it is now is, believe it or not, it's the women's restroom. But back when it was a functional house, that was a cupboard. So we said, sure, it's your investigation. Do what you want. There she is.
That's her. We just saw her at the Las Vegas Para-Unity Expo. She is a phenomenal medium. She's a fantastic person, and she's very educated in the paranormal, which is something I hope to see catches on. She studied under, or still does, Lloyd Auerbach, parapsychologist, for a number of years.
Yeah. She's an incredibly sweet lady.
She's great.
Yeah. I've got a lot of funny stories involving her and on investigation, stuff like that. But so this was one of them. She said, I want to go do an EVP session in the bathroom. So first time for everything. So myself, another coworker, and Mariah, we sat in the women's restroom, doing an EVP session. And so what you're going to hear is the faucet in the bathroom actually running, because Mariah was saying that the water could be a conduit to help solicit getting an EVP. So you're going to hear the water turn on, and then after a couple seconds, you're going to hear a very distinct, like, screeching sound. And when we all listened back, it was so loud that we thought it was impossible that we couldn't have heard it in real time, but we didn't. So what you're going to hear, what I've always said it sounds like is like a small monkey, like a spider monkey or something like that. But people say bird or whatever the case is. But nonetheless, when you take a listen, you're going to hear a very distinctly different sound than the water running. So,
Okay. Here comes that clip.
There's more there.
Yeah, there's talking
Yeah, there's conversation going on.
there. Mm-hmm.
Let me play that again.
Tony?
Here it comes. It sounds like a woman like screaming in anger more than fear. But you're right. When the water's running, you can almost hear what sounds like a male voice. Now, granted, it could just sounds of the water that are making me think it's there, but I do hear what sounds like talking, and you guys picked up on it right away too. It sounds like that's her high-pitched squeal answer to whatever was said. Now,
well, so I've always heard that too, and I always just wrote that off as just matrixing due to the water. My focus was that very distinct screech at the end. To me, that was a sound very different than everything else previous. So, and we had done several burst EVP sessions, and that sound did not come up again. So it's not like it was something to do with the water, whatever the case was. It was a very isolated situation.
It was, and the second part of it is definitely unique. But the whole purpose of turning on the water was just like the motorcycle. It is that background noise which spirits use to amplify their vocals. Which in the last one we played, that sound was used as an amplification off of the motorcycle sound. So hard to say, but it's very interesting.
Audio support. That's the very roots of direct radio voice that I've been doing for the last 3 years, was using white noise as audio support. People use water and other stuff. I think, and I agree when I like where Vinny's coming from with it, because he's taking a very discerned tact with it. He's focusing on the thing that is the clear-cut anomaly and giving credence to the possibility that the water could be causing some kind of a pareidolia or matrixing audibly. But it does sound like whispering. It does sound like there's speech. Could it be water? Yeah, but I mean, if I was taking a shower and I heard that, I would probably jump out without shutting it off. So that's
now. What's interesting is that on the second floor of the mansion, there has been EVPs captured in Aaron Burr's room that sounds like a very, very loud bird, like mimicking human voice. And when you piece it all together, and that was captured about a year earlier. So when you piece everything together, the thing that I always remind people is think about who we're investigating here. Elijah-Jumel was a very colorful, eccentric person. And then we had people coming from all over the world with, giving gifts, to these affluent people. I mean, it would not be that far-fetched to think that someone might have had a little monkey with them or a tropical bird. I mean, people to this day still do, so it's not that far-fetched. That was going on in New York back in the day. So maybe we captured
Didn't she have a headboard kind of thing that belonged originally to Napoleon Bonaparte from over in France?
She did, yeah. So their family was friends with the Bonaparte family, and they acquired a lot of personal belongings from them through an estate sale. But yeah, she did. The bed that she died in, which they still have at the museum, is very ornate and has markings that represent different times in Napoleon's campaigns. And there is, at the top of it, it's kind of like a curtain situation, but at the top, it's like a swan, which I think was the symbol of the Bonaparte family.
The last time we were there, she didn't like men in her bedroom, was as the story goes.
Yeah.
We had a few of us and women in, I think it was her room on the second floor, and an entire curtain rod with those really long curtains came down in the middle of a session, and it freaked everybody out. We had no explanation for why that happened. Is the chair still there? And I think it was in Aaron Burns' room, the one that gives off inexplicable, was it EMF readings?
Yeah, the striped chair that Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote some of Hamilton, the musical. It's still in Aaron Burr's room. It's still doing the same thing to this day. And so there's what Ron's talking about is so Aaron Burr, the former vice president, shot Alexander Hamilton in a duel in Weehawken, New Jersey. Many, many years later in his life, he came to marry Elijah-Jumel. He was her second husband, and he lived there for a short period of time, and that was his bedroom on the second floor. In that room, without fail, is always an unusually high EMF level. And there's a chair in there that's striped. It's very ornate, and it just pulsates with the EMF. And we've moved it, and it continues to, but we put the EMF then on the ground, and it stops. So it's something about the chair itself.
Yeah, we watched you do that. He tried everything to debunk, to explain. And it was freaky. Like the readings were coming off that chair, and you couldn't get it to stop, like you said. But if you put it on the floor or something else, it was phenomenal. It was really odd.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's a good spot.
Okay. Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it. All right. So the next clip, and this one's an actual video clip. Sure what it was originally titled. I titled it Cat Ball. So hopefully that tells you which one I played.
Is it like it's on the longer couch?
Yes.
Yeah. So this was captured actually at the George Eastman Museum here in Rochester, New York. So I recently relocated. I'm upstate New York. And so George Eastman Museum, George Eastman, he was the gentleman who founded Kodak film. So, he did a lot of great things in his life. But this was captured in a back room of the museum. And I was just doing a little set. I was by myself, middle of the day, and they gave me permission to go and investigate. And it just got into like this back little study area in the building. And I set up a couple of REM pods and some vibration detectors, or also known as cat balls, but they just light up whenever you touch them, move them, roll them, anything like that. And I had to ask a series of questions, and it had been going off, and then it stopped. So I started filming, and basically the clip will explain the rest.
All right. Here is that clip.
Okay, we're in the George Eastman Study Center in the Eastman Museum. A few moments ago, that vibration ball on the right-hand side went off when I asked if there were any men in this room. Can you touch that one more time so I know you're here? Can you touch any of these devices right now? There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Awesome. Oh, there we go. Second one. That's the first time that's gone off. Okay. Thank you very much. Can you touch the other one again, please? Can you go back to the first one? Very, very cool. Oh, there we go. Now we got both going off. Thank you very much. Wow, that's incredible. Look at that. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is cool, and I want to point something out for our audience.
Really
So,
wild.
Very cool.
so Vinny pointed out that these are vibration devices. So if you paid really close attention to that video, those things never moved.
Mm-mm.
Right.
And if you paid really extra close attention, that this spirit that he was communicating with was very. He liked the balls more than he liked the REM pod and the K2s. And if you notice that he was specific enough that the others didn't even go off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. One of the really cool things about that setup is you've got K2, I just call them cat balls, the vibrational cat ball, a REM pod. K2 and REM pods are all electromagnetic frequency receptors. Then another cat ball, and then another K2. The cool part is that the balls were on the same bench. So if the bench was vibrating consistently, both of them should have been on the entire time they were sitting there, but they weren't. Yeah. It wasn't electromagnetic frequency setting off the devices, or one or multiple of the K2s and the REM pod would have triggered as well. They were no more than 8-10 inches apart. Right. So it was a vibration, but a controlled vibration, because it wasn't the whole bench, or both of those would have been lit the entire time.
Right.
Yep. Spot on. I was going to say that the transference of energy you're seeing was probably somewhat of like a low level kinetic, because it was doing something to disrupt the balls without making it visibly move, and no EMF detector flanking those things. Or for our Spanish speaking audience, the testicles de gatos. Testicles
de gatos. Let's take it a step further.
Did not move at all.
Yeah. So situational awareness, where are you at? You were in a room, you got a wood bench, those balls are sitting on the cushion. The balls never moved.
Yep.
The cushion would have absorbed any type of vibration coming through that wood. That's a solid chunk of wood. But if you paid really close attention to it, that carpet was pretty thick carpet. So even somebody walking by, the carpet would have absorbed the vibration, the wood would have absorbed the vibration, and it wouldn't have transferred enough into the cushions to get the balls to go off without moving them.
Yeah, that's brilliant, because if it was anything sizable enough to cause that in the room, as far as somebody or something moving, it would have almost been audible to the microphone that was recording as well, because it would have been a pretty serious vibration.
Right. That's a good point.
Brilliant setup the way it was laid out.
Well, here's one more thing I want to point out too. This was broad daylight. So many people think I have to go in at midnight when it's pitch black and turn off all the lights to do an investigation. People, if spirits want to communicate with you, they are going to communicate with you. It doesn't matter what time of day it is.
Yep.
Right.
That's what I tell people all the time. That's one of the biggest misconceptions in the paranormal.
Yeah, well, they don't understand sometimes, I guess, why we do it, and maybe that's because of the paranormal's foothold in entertainment, more so than enlightenment, is for scare purposes, and it's natural to be scared of the dark, but nighttime and darkness and stuff for environmental control, so you can vet your surroundings and rule stuff out. That's really more so. It's quieter, with the exception of the motorcycle.
Well, the other thing that I tell people too is that unfortunately, some of us have day jobs, and that the only time that we're able to go and do these things are at night when these museums are closed to the public.
Yep.
It's a good point.
Yep.
It's a very good point. Yeah. That was really cool though. And great pulling apart the circumstances from both Ron and Chris and Audra, because that was really interesting because of the environment, because and I didn't hear you walking around. You seemed to be relatively still.
No, I was sitting still. Yeah.
And just to add one more level of authenticity to this too, there's a video on David Oman's YouTube channel from when Lourdes and I were at his house a couple years ago, and he had one of those on the floor, and it was lighting up on command when we asked it similarly. And so one of the things we ruled out, is in case anybody's wondering, is that those things don't have an automatic repeat thing to them, where if you touch it, it blinks, and then it shuts off, and then it blinks again, and then it shuts off, then it blinks again. Then you have to touch it. No, it blinks one series of times when you touch it. That thing kept going, and then when it was going back and forth like Vinny had them doing like that, that's not supposed to happen.
Right. Yeah, that was great. I really enjoyed that. That was definitely a vibrational energy of some directed method, because like I said, the biggest thing that struck me was that the EMFs were not triggering, and the balls didn't stay constant vibrating together. They actually went one to the other and then both. So that was really cool.
The two best words to describe what we just saw came from you, Tony, was controlled vibration, because that's really, in a microcosm, that's it. That's what caused that phenomenon. That's really cool. And again, the setup was so well put together to rule out or be able to corroborate what you were doing.
Yeah, it really was. And the fact that all of it was on the same bench, not more than 8-10 inches apart, really gave consistency to the fact that they were alternating and not staying on consistent. So that was really cool, Vinny. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
So let's go to the metaphysical. Let's go to the metaphysical side of it. I tend to agree with Aaron on this one. I kind of got a feeling of a little boy talking with you there too. So knowing what happened there and who died there and the history of there would be even more phenomenal if you could connect that. That would be cool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Aaron's very talented.
The only known death there was actually George Eastman himself. He committed suicide in his bedroom, which was just down the hallway from where I was.
Wow.
In that video.
Which speaks to the historic aspect of the location too. But as we all know, that sometimes something can be brought in with somebody. They're transient. Who's to say? You've been doing this for a long time, Vinny. I'm sure you could connect with spirit pretty much anywhere you go if you broke out a recorder and some devices. So maybe it's not ever been there before. Maybe it's been around there and it never came forward before. Who knows? But
no one's ever actually, as far as I know, no one's actually done an investigation there. But
that's cool. The other thing too is, is good as we hope historic records are, doesn't mean that there just is no record of an 8 to 10-year-old boy passing away. So, maybe it wasn't there in the history, but maybe it moved in because other spirits were there. Who knows? There's so many possibilities, but that's cool information, Aaron. And like you guys said, if you could somehow piece those two together, how cool would that be? But
that would be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the next one I'm going to play, and this one's really cool also. I don't remember what you originally labeled this, Vinny. I call it Table 5.
Yeah. So going back to historic Richmond town, Staten Island, this video is actually captured the same night, different building, as the EVP with the woman's voice saying, turn it off or turn it. So where this video was captured was actually in the lower level of a building, and it's now used as a cafe, open to the public. And the ladies that work at the cafe have all said that they've had experiences. So we were doing, again, a small little group investigation. And on the table, so the cafe has, it has a counter, and then it has tables throughout the serving space. And all of the tables have these little table markers with different numbers on them to indicate what table. And I think it's 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 or something like that. So I actually went through and I set up different pieces of equipment on each table to see if I could get some kind of conversation going. And I had EMFs, REM pods, vibration. I had laser grid facing all of the tables. So that's what you're going to see. It's in the dark. You're going to see the laser grid itself. But to date, this is the most Class A example of intelligent haunting that I've ever been a part of, that I've ever captured on film. That's why I'm kind of glad you saved it best for last. But you're going to hear me say, okay, can you please touch, table 3 or table 5, whatever. And almost as soon as I say it, it happens. And that's never happened for me. So that's what you're going to see different devices going off. You're not going to see the table numbers themselves, but you're going to see the different devices. You're going to see the flash of the EMF. You're going to see the flash of the vibration detector in the back of the room on table 5. So that's what you're going to see.
All right. Before I play the clip, I just want to say to our audience, we're going to play this clip and probably have a pretty good discussion around this. So in about the next 7 or 8 minutes, KGRA is going to flip over to their next scheduled program. This show will, however, continue through this clip and our discussion of it. So if you want to continue following the show, switch over to Facebook or YouTube or any of the other channels that are showing the live video. Otherwise, feel free to move on to KGRA's next program, but this show will go on. So I just wanted to state that before we got into the clip and the observations. So thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, here is that clip.
Is someone at table 3? Brand new batteries in here, by the way. I just put them in tonight. If someone's sitting at table 3, can you touch one of those devices, please? Thank you. Someone at table 5? Good day. Table 7. You saw that, right? Okay, back to table 3. Can you touch? Okay. Table 5. Table 5. Can you touch that little ball on the table just so we know you're here?
Can you move another physical object? Perhaps make something fall. A shift of a chair.
Table 5 again. Thank you.
That was great.
That was pretty cool.
I love that.
Yeah, that was cool. Table 7, you need some water. Get you some water. Table 7.
That's cool. When you have on-demand response with devices like that, it's so hard to. You don't have to. I mean, this is where you cross the line between people go, you believe in this, you believe in that. That's not a belief. That's witnessing.
Right.
If that's happening accidentally every time he asks a specific table to light something up that often, he needs to be buying lottery tickets daily.
Yeah.
His luck is phenomenal.
Well, I mean, anybody knows that the mathematical probability of if the devices were lighting up just haphazardly, for him to be calling out a specific table and have that one light as he asked, the mathematical probability of that would be astronomical and not happen. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Spot on, Tony. Spot on.
Well, and I want to point something out in the way Vinny investigates too. You see that he uses multiple pieces of equipment. He's got REM pods, he's got K2s, he's got the vibration balls. In this video, he also had, the laser grid set up, and I'm sure you probably had some recorders. You had the video going. And Vinny will be right back. Y'all stay tuned.
Camera 4, come back. Camera 4. See what happens when I ask.
Vinny, if you're still with us, can you light up the 4 square?
Where'd he go?
I think he got disconnected. I saw it say he'll be right back. But that was really cool that he could get him to light up on command. Here he comes.
Yeah.
There he is.
That was way neat.
Vinny at table
There we
7.
go.
Vinny at table
Square
7.
4 is lit up.
I'm back.
Awesome.
But I think the point I was trying to make is I'm sure you had recorders going, you had video going, you had the laser grid going, you had the REM pods going. That is how you collaborate evidence. Because if you get an EVP along with the response that you're getting from table 7, you get something moving through the grid. You can tie all that together. And that's just a phenomenal teaching point for those of you out there that are watching that are new to investigating or want to learn some points. That's as much evidence and as much equipment as you can use to collaborate your stories and catch the most evidence. That line together is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff. And, I like the way you investigate. I like the way, like I said, on the K2 REM pod, vibrational cat toys, that was great because not only could you identify what your source was, because those K2s and REM pod did not even blink, beep, nothing.
No.
So not from a temperature, not from anything. So K2, not from EMF. So that was really cool. That was
really cool. And
Yeah.
correlative data.
The other thing that
You first.
Sorry, Ron. All I was going to say is that I've investigated in that cafe several times, and that's not a recurring. That's not a recurring thing. It was a very isolated situation that night. So if it was something that kept happening, I'd say, okay, maybe it's something organic. Maybe it's faulty wiring. Maybe it's whatever the case is. But it was just, like I said, it was just that night in that moment, and then we were there for a while longer, than that video actually shows, and it stopped. So. It was just like a hurricane of activity, and then it just stopped.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's why you buy all those toys to bring to these investigations and spend all your money on batteries, is because you want collaborative effort with your devices. You want to be able to corroborate what you get, and you want correlative data. If you can look at what you've done and find out X amount of times, people say that you get high EMF with EVP. If there's no data to support that, then it's guesswork. But if you can show this thing spiked, I got readings here every time preceding or around the time I get an EVP, then you could start putting a picture together of, look, this is systematic. This is something that's happening as a process. So so his methods of using multiple things, tacks per each session, that's important, and it's huge, and that's how you do thorough, detailed work, because you walk away with one piece of evidence, you can probably vet that from more than one angle, which and to what Chris was saying is that's the goal, is to make this above chance or accident or coincidence as much as you can.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome. And so a couple of people I want to thank for tonight. I want to thank Vinny. Vinny, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing that awesome evidence with us. Keep up the great work, because what you're doing seems to be working. And
thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I want to thank everyone in our audience who tunes in each and every week. And for those who maybe this was the first one you've seen, hope you come back. Hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank KGRA for broadcasting this for us. I want to thank Bill, our producer, for making sure it goes out without any difficulties. And I'm going to turn it over to either Chris or Audra for our closing. I never know who to say anymore.
Tony, I need to make a request first.
Sure.
This is the last show before Christmas. There's no way he gets to do a closing statement without that hat.
Oh yeah, I got to put the hat on.
Now he's ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Forget
about it. How you doing, Anthony Simonelli? Okay, here we go. It is 4 or 5 days before Christmas, everybody, and we do this. We are almost 1 year into our stint with KGRA, and if it wasn't for you out there, we wouldn't be where we're at. We wouldn't have you guys watching, and we wouldn't love our Monday nights as much as we do, and bringing people on like Vinny, where we get to see the great evidence that we get to see. We've all got friends that watch. We've all got family that watch. We've all got coworkers that watch, and every week after we leave our show on Monday night, we hear about, oh my God, dude, you have my skin crawling. and guys, that's why we do this. For all of you that don't know, we're not getting rich off of our show, EVPE. We do it because we love it. We have passion for it. And what I want to say, as I'm dragging this out, and I'm doing it for a reason, is I tell you guys every week to stay haunted. Okay. And that's what puts our show on the air. That's what drives our passion. That's what puts us into investigations. But this week, spend time with family, have fun, love, laugh, and this time, stay merry. Merry Christmas, guys. We'll see you next week.